This is the third session in this series. And the last two sessions were the two bookends of my entire series, starting with Ashochananvashochatsvam Pradnyavadanscha bhashate iti bijam. That means bijam means a root cause. The main purpose of creation of Bhagavad Gita by Lord Sri Krishna, the Song of Divine, was to thoroughly answer the question posed by Arjuna's concern that he expressed earlier. And he leads off, you grieve for those who you should not grieve for. Ashochan tvam anvashocha. And yet you speak words of wisdom, pradnyavadan bhashate. The wise with knowledge of Atman do not grieve. Panditaha na anushochanti. Gatasuna agatasuna. For those who have taken their last breath and for those who yet to take the last breath. Let me emphasize, we learned that Pandit is one with the wisdom of Atman. Adi Shankaracharya, based on the teaching in Burad Aranyapanishad, taught us that Panda Atma Vishaya Buddhi Yesham Tehi Pandita. He described that there are various kinds of knowledges, but the Panda is the one with the knowledge of Atman, and he is called the Pandita. Now, as soon as he came with a tremendous concern and was completely exhausted and sat down in his chariot, a good teacher always encourages the student. He said, you're pretty bright. You have a tremendous amount of knowledge, pradnyavadam shabash, including warfare and archery, and he read some scriptures as well. But he did not possess the knowledge about his true identity, his true nature, Atman. And hence, starting from this opening verse of his teaching, he started his narrative. And until the very end, he went through a detailed discussion as to who Arjuna was. And in that process, he elucidated knowledge of Brahman, Atman, and the entire creation, Brahma Vidya, and also taught Arjuna the methodology, Yoga Shastra, to accomplish that ultimate goal through two options of lifestyle. Lokesmin dvida dushta maya prokta mayadaga jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yogina. One that of renunciation, that is sannyasi, and one who's a samsari like Arjuna, a householder. And then the last session was primarily relating to manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyati satyam te pratijane priyosime sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja iti shakti. So he opening subject, reason for bija was ashochan and vashochaso. And what is the strength of this Bhagavad Gita? These are the three lines I just said, from the 65th and the 66th words from the 18th chapter. He said, his key advice in those three lines was, become manmana, means who has become one, a Parameshwara, God by any name, as the object of mind. The mind is offered to God, Parama. With such offering, he becomes Mad Bhakta, totally devoted to God, Ishtadevata of his. And then commitment at that stage for that devotee is only Ishvara. So whatever he does for the sake of Ishvara. All the rituals, yajnaha, all the activities, karma, are only for Ishvara. And Sri Krishna acting, knowing that he is a personification of Ishvara, he says, Madhyaji, coming to me. So for that devotee, Ishvara alone is his refuge, the locus of surrender. And then Sri Krishna says, you may bow down to me, Mam Namaskuru. And then he says, if you do that with total devotion, Mam eva eshyati, you will reach me alone by in that process. And I tell you the real thing, Satyam te pratijane, promise to you. That's exactly you will accomplish. What happens in this stage? The sadhya, the situation at the end, the means, the sadhana, and offered, what is offered for Ishvara is that individual completely devoted to him. So we have this third message. So worshipping Ishvara is one's own duty, and by that process, an individual gains success. As a matter of fact, in the 18th chapter I referred to last time, Swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavas, 46th verse of the 18th chapter. By human being who performs his duties with an attitude of worship to Ishvara, Swakarmana Ishwaram abhyarcha, he gains success, siddhim vindati mandava. And when one does something just because situation demands it is a duty, so he's acting according to the laws of the life, dharma, and conformity to dharma is exactly what it means by worshipping. So whatever activity you do, preferred profession, privilege to do that, you offer it as a form in the spirit of service to the gods, service to God. So those were the two things we concluded. Now what happens at this stage is this karma, as I remember Prasanna was emphasizing it. Yata pravritti bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam. Karma is meant for various things, but that karma yoga is meant only for one thing, that is antakarana shuddhi. That is a person getting ready to gain that knowledge. Whatever profession you may pursue, your mind is getting ready, antakarana shuddhi, in order so that he is capable of getting the knowledge. And again, that last verse said, Mameva eshyasi, you will come to me alone by becoming, obtaining a non-separation, obtaining oneness. Not that oneness is not something out of the way. In that process, my friends, that oneness is discovered. You realize it's right within yourself. So any created oneness ends in separation. I know in medicine. But because these two things are brought together, they get separated. But since it is already accomplished, there is no separation. And that knowledge takes the individual to recognize he already is Brahman, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. And obviously, such a powerful message is giving at that particular stage. The teacher always encourages the student. He says, no. You will indeed reach me. Satyam te pratijani. You know why? Because you're dear to me. Priyasi me. So when the teacher shows that special affection, feels most comfortable. Yes, maybe, and I understand now. He knows he's going to take care of it. Now, this is what it called Shakti. That is giving up all karmas, take refuge in me alone, and I'll release you from all the karmas. That means the reaction to that karmas. So that is the way Sri Krishna is explaining to that. And then how do you continue this activity without the slightest negative thought? So then he says, Aham tva sarva papebhyo, sarva papebhya, mokshayishyami ma shucha. He says, I will release you from all karmas, reaction to all the past actions. And don't you worry, don't grieve, ma shucha. So basically, he's able to give him a confidence. Don't worry about it. Hold on to my hand, jump in the water, you will be able to swim. And kilaka is aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha iti kilakam. 66 verse, 18th chapter. Kilak means a place where an individual can find safety, a safe harbor, a refuge, adhishtan. You can buy it for comfort as well as safety. That's adhishtan. So that is what exactly he is telling us. So he basically said to start giving up all the karmas, activities, take refuge in me alone. I'll release you from all the activities, karmas, and the subsequent consequences of it. And don't you worry about you're grieving over what does not to be grieved for, ma shucha. So starts with ashocha and ashochacham, and 1866 ends up with ma shucha. And basically, we know that even if he says don't do anything, we recognize, okay, Sri Krishna has described it, nahi kaschit kshanabhapi jatutishtasti akarmakrit. So nobody can really stay without doing action. Even though I'm talking, and may not be doing physically that you can see, but my heart is still beating. So activity continues. But the knowledge that really makes you understand you are it is called jnana karma sannyas. That means you do the activity, but realize the real doer is God himself, God herself. Mam ekam sharanam braja. You get down, accomplish it by surrendering it to God, recognizing that the activities get done through you. You are not doer. You're neither the karta nor the bhokta. And as I've discussed in the past several times and had a nice chat with Johnny this weekend, God exists both in sentient and insentient things. Chetana, achetana. You have to understand clearly there is nothing but God. For example, my teacher always told me, students will come up to me and ask him, how many gods are there, Swami Dayanandaji? Are there many gods? He said, no, there are not many gods. There's not even one God, not many gods, not one God, but he would emphasize there is nothing but God. Everything is Brahman. God is the nature of all individual. Sarva Atmanam, Sarva Bhutasta Atma. That Atma is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So every individual is his Atman, her Atman, his entirety, the Brahman, Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. So when Johnny walks out in nature and connects to the trees that he enjoys walking by, beautiful animals and birds, he shares pictures with us, he has the connectedness with those entities because he recognizes Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma attitude. And that brings us to today's discussion. We talked about don't you worry about it, and you should not grieve about it. Then he told you as to what is the ultimate goal and where you can find the strength and the ultimate goal. Okay, now tell me what is the methodology it described from starting from the very beginning, 213, to 1866. And that brings us to today's discussion. Uddharet atmanatmanam, natmanam avasadayet, atmaiva hyatmano bandhur, atmaiva ripuratmana. If I want to translate it, Atmanat Atmanam Uddharet. Let a man and a woman lift oneself by his self alone, and let him not degrade himself. Na Atmanam avasadayet. Self alone is the friend of oneself. Atmaiva hi Atmano bandhu. Self alone is the friend of oneself. And if this opportunity of human birth to gain that knowledge of our true identity is wasted, this very self becomes the enemy of oneself. Atma eva ripuhu atmana. If you blow the chance, then the worst enemy is yourself. You have fastball coming down the middle, and you're good as a fastball hitter. If you miss that ball and did not hit a home run, then one who missed it, you are the one who's atmaima yuripuratman. But how do you make right choices to find the ultimate success and regain our true identity? As a matter of fact, we have learned before several times, it's a privilege to be born as a human being. And that only comes about through divine grace. In Vivek Chudamani, third verse, Shankaracharya says, Durlabham Trayam Eva Etat Deva Anugraha Hetukam. Durlabham Trayam Eva Etat Deva Anugraha Hetukam. What are those three entities? Manushyattvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samshra. To be born as a human being, because, and then having an intense desire to be liberated from the bondage of wants and desire, mumukshutvam, and company of enlightened people, Mahapurusha Samshraya. Everything is because of the grace of the God. My teacher always taught me, you do not seek the Guru, but the Guru appears when you are ready to receive the knowledge. They're always there, but you realize, and the teacher realizes, that the individual is ready to gain the knowledge. Scriptures also say, Jantunam Jarananmaha Durlabha. The birth as a human being is scarce indeed. What distinguishes us human being is the capacity we have to make choices. Human beings are blessed with that unique faculty and do not act merely on instinct. Sometimes I wonder myself, many of the animals also seem to be having the same brightness, but we are egotistic human beings think that they are the only one who have it. Thus, choice governs our own life. What is fascinating is that if there is anything in which I do not have a choice, it is this faculty of choice. I hope I'm not confusing you. Choice governs our life. What is fascinating is that if there is anything in which I don't have a choice, it is this faculty of choice. Even if I do not deliberately make the choice, I'm indeed making choice of choosing a default option. The kind of clothes I wear, the kind of food I eat, and the kind of friends I hang around with, it's my choice. Now, exercising choice is very important and necessarily implies that one should know what to choose. Certain things one cannot ignore. One has to know the law of the land. Since in the code of law, ignorance is no excuse. That's true in the life as well. We cannot be ignorant, especially with reference to living. You should conform you should perform only those actions which are right and those that are unbecoming. You should perform only those actions which are right and not perform those which are unbecoming. Suppose if you have a doubt regarding a course of action, a doubt about a conduct in life, or if you get confused, which is not uncommon, as to what is right and what's wrong, go to the people in the contemporary society who are given to the life of Dharma, who are dispassionate, and therefore have the capacity to be objective. Go and address them and follow their advice till the time you gain an understanding and maturity to make proper choices on your own. Bhagavatam and as well as Gita advise us to follow the path that pure devotees who should be following the enlightened individuals to follow. Mahajano yena gata sapantaha. That is what Bhagavad said. The road that Mahajana took, gata, Mahajana, yena pantaha gata, sapanta. Follow that. Shri Krishna says in the 21st verse of the 3rd chapter, Yadyat acharite shreshta tat tat itaro janaha sayet saha yat pramanam kurute loka tat anuvartate. Whatever an important person in the community, a role model in the society does, exactly those other individuals do. And whatever that Shrestha, the role model, sets as proper, the world of people who are careful follow. Such a role model sets the standard by the way he or she lives, by the way he acts and reacts, the variety of situations he encounters in the day-to-day life. Now, Sri Krishna is teaching Arjuna, you are my young man, that role model. Whatever you do will have far-reaching consequences. That's why it is very important for you to look at this situation at the hand and be very carefully in order to set a proper standard for the society. Shri Krishna said, surely the other individuals of the society, because of your leadership position, are bound to pursue your path. And that brings us today's discussion, Uddharet Atmanatmanam. As a matter of fact, this was the verse that my late dear wife, Kumud, had a privilege to be with her for 65 years, truly adored and practiced all her life. Uddharet Atmanatmanam, Atmanam avasadet, Atmaiva Yatmano Bandhar, Atmaiva Ripurat. As a matter of fact, today is a day when those who practice in northern India called Karwa Chauk. That means a fasting is done at least for half a day. This is Ashwin Krishna Chaturthi, Sankashti Chaturthi, so that there is a long longevity for the spouses. Typically, woman does for the man, typical Indian chauvinistic society. But really speaking, it is done for the spouse. And we always did it together, Kumud and myself. And as far as Kumud and Yvonne and Johnny's case, they already found the life which is totally eternal already anyway. Now, the verse that we're going to discuss today, hopefully, once we understand it, will inspire us to make deliberate choice to use this human birth to gain the knowledge of our true identity. There is nothing that is comparable to this knowledge. As a matter of fact, the 38th verse of the 4th chapter says, Prasanna knows well, Nahi jnane na sadrusham pavitram iha vidyate. There is nothing better, nothing more sacred than knowledge about our identity. But before we get started, in order to inspire you, let me share a story of a young wife, who taught her husband, which would be inspirational to some of us to make that deliberate choice to gain that ultimate knowledge of our true identity. This young man was infatuated with his wife, and I shall share a young man's name at the very end. He was recently married, could not get enough of his wife. After a few months, as usually is in custom, his wife returned back to a parental home to relax and recharge, having worked very hard in a new home after marriage to impress everyone, particularly the in laws and, of course, husband. Of course, people who have grown up in India, heard about it, understand what I'm trying to say, how a typical young woman gets married, comes to the husband's place, and his new home, trying to make that bright and happy, just like she made the parents' home happy before getting married. Finally, she gets a break, and typically it gets in the rainy season. They get usually married in the spring or summer, as you know. After she left to see her parents, the young man became restless. He did not want to be separated from his wife, even for a day. It was the month of Shravan. Those who know, grown up in India, they know it rains cats and dogs. Typically, the skies got dark that day. Night was stormy. It started raining heavily. The Ganges began to overflow. And it was just not possible for this young man to get across the Ganges. Even the boatman had stopped going. But this man did not want to stay away from his wife even for one night. He went to the banks of the Ganges, saw that what he thought was a wooden log. He jumped for that log, and by holding on to that, he managed to swim across that flooded Ganges. By George, he did it. When he reached the other bank of the river, which had finally some lights, he realized that the log he was holding on was actually a dead body with the face down. Ooh, he currently ran towards his in-laws' home. When he reached that home, he saw that the front door was locked and also realized that he had come there totally uninvited. Typically, in-laws don't go home to father-in-law's place without being invited. The house was almost dark, except there was a light in one room at the upper level. He knew that that room belonged to his wife. Name happened to be Ratnavali. He saw a rope hanging down from the window. With that side, he was absolutely overjoyed. He jumped for the rope, pulled himself right up, got into her room. To her surprise, she was surprised. Both wife Ratnavali and her husband then realized the rope that he had used to climb was not really a rope, but instead a very long snake. Ratnavali was just as much overjoyed to see him, because she did not miss him, did not want to miss him either, but she had to come because parents had been inviting her. So she was very happy that he had come to see her. And when he shared all the story about how he came across the Ganges and the floods and rains, she was really touched with his amazing love and commitment to her. Ratnavali was very pious and very knowledgeable. Of course, women are smarter than us anyway. She had a deep devotion and utmost faith for Lord Rama, Shraddha Bhakti. She said, I really appreciate your love for me. I really love you too. I really admire the way you overcame all the challenges that you faced on the way here just to come and see me. I was just wondering, what if you had as much love for Lord Rama as you love this body of mine? to come to think about it, merely made up of flesh and bones. At this time, the rain stopped, and so did the raging storm in the young man's mind. Ratnavali's comment, her gentle taunt, found its mark. This carnal man was decimated. His mental makeup changed dramatically. What resulted then was the emergence of an unwavering devotee of Lord Rama. This young man, Gosen Tulsi, now became a changed human being, later got on to be known as Santa Tulsidas, the author of Tulsi Ramayana. Hopefully, this story inspires all of us to be a true devotee who makes the choice to seek our true identity, which is nothing but divine. In that case, I shall share with you a rough outline that I come up with so you could achieve that goal. What worked for Kumud and me to reach that goal was to start with daily heartfelt prayers on a regular basis. And all of us have learned one simple verse as youngsters: Udyamam sahasam dhairyam buddhi shakti parakrama shadete yatra vartante tatra devaha sahayakrit. God, devaha sahayakrit, provides assistance. Devaha sahayakrit, where these six virtues abide. Shadete yatra vartante. What are those? Effort, udyamam; enthusiasm, sahasam; perseverance, dhairyam; knowledge, buddhi; resources, shakti; and readiness to face obstacles, parakrama. So if you have these, God will provide us assistance: effort, enthusiasm, perseverance, knowledge, resources, and readiness to face the obstacles. Now, efforts. Once we agree that we have to do regular and heartfelt prayers, we must make necessary efforts without which there is no hope of accomplishing our goal. We eat 2-3 times a day, take a shower every day, we sleep at night. Why can't we make an effort, do prayer regularly? We used to do morning and evening. Sahasam. Arambha Shurya Khaludakshanatya means to criticize some people. Some people just start something. Any enterprising individual can conceive of such good new goals, but you have a discipline to follow that goal. So you have to have a daily heart prayers, but without consistent and passionate enthusiasm, those goals of doing prayers can never be accomplished. नहीं करेंगे बाद में, while doing some other time it's convenient. No. If you sleep regularly, eat regularly, make sure you pray regularly. And praying together as a couple, as we did, worked very well for both of us, both Kumud and myself. Dhairyam, courage and perseverance. It takes a lot of courage to undertake any task. Doing prayers twice daily, as we did, might appear daunting. However, just start by doing heartfelt prayers just once a day to start with. That's fine. By doing heartfelt just once a day, as you continue and persevere through this initial period, you'll be amazed when you find that you do have time doing the same prayers twice daily. You just look forward to it. That's what we did. Buddhi, knowledge. One needs to continue to acquire knowledge to accomplish the ultimate goals. One must know and fully understand the comprehensive meaning of those prayers. You could accomplish that by reading the books, which detail those meanings. Of course, you can always learn by asking individuals who may explain to you the exact meaning of those words in greater detail, or at least refer to you an appropriate resource. Trust me when I tell you, from my personal experience, that these very prayers became far more enjoyable And I started understanding fully the true meaning of these amazing prayers in greater detail. It is just simply like having a beautiful flower, which of course looks beautiful. But when we learn the meaning of it, it's like an enchanting bouquet to that flower in addition. That's the reason God has blessed us, or blessed community that we live in, and a beautiful temple with amazing spiritual vibrations and some enlightened individuals. Shakti, resources. One must have all the needed resources, or at times must seek help from other individuals. Resources thus simply imply finances, manpower, and expertise. There is absolutely no shame whatsoever in realizing and accepting that you need limitations. Only then one can take appropriate actions and formally seek necessary help to satisfy those needs and accomplish that task. Parakrama, readiness in facing obstacles like this unexpected pandemic that we faced, coronavirus. Having to face obstacles is unavoidable. In accomplishing any goal, one must be always prepared to deal with these and not be hindered by them, and maintain confidence. We will be able to, we can overcome. One must overcome obstacles. And finally, the Daivam means God's grace. Rishis and sages have pointed out that in addition to exhibiting these 6 qualifications, there's as yet one more, if not perhaps the most important factor that plays part in making the difference between success and failure. That is absolutely true in case of Kumud and myself. Ignorant individuals refer to this factor as a chance, a luck, or in reality is the grace of God, whatever the specific name one wants to address that God with. Typical question, how can we invoke the grace of God? Such grace can be invoked only by living righteously, life of dharma, and praying regularly to the deity of one's heart, Ishta Devata, with absolute faith and utmost devotion under any circumstances, even when the things seem to be falling apart. At the time when our temple was vandalized on April 5th, 2006, our $8 million contract with Centex Corporation for the temple was withdrawn at the last moment on April 9th, 2006. Shraddha means having utmost confidence and intense sincerity to pursue God, longing to reach that goal with positive outlook towards life and with a mind that retains no negative thoughts whatsoever. Such attitudes indeed allow us to see and experience the invisible Brahman, believe the incredible, and unquestionably regain that knowledge of our true identity. What was previously considered by us as impossible. When you succeed in reaching that deep state of samadhi during meditations on a regular basis, you all will be able to confirm exactly this for yourself. Such grace easily descends upon us, especially during the most trying times or while in crisis, especially if individual has been regular in daily prayers. More often than not, it is impossible for us to decipher the whys or wherefores of many happenings. But all the same, favorability of these divine laws is extremely important for the success of our experience. For that, we must pray to that Ishvara who is always in control of all the laws of nature. Pray to Ishvara or God with different names or different languages or different people, different individuals in different faiths. Doesn't matter. Ishvara is only one. Prayer means to entreat, to request, to make an humble plea There is humility in the prayer. It invokes a keen awareness and acceptance of one's own limitations, as well as the greatness of God. In the prayer, there is a trust and conviction that not only Ishvara is omnipotent and therefore capable of giving anything, but Ishvara is also merciful. Anything is possible with His grace. Heartfelt prayer invokes that grace. Just trust me. Both Kumud and myself have enjoyed it. One may ask, wait a minute, Dr. Sane, if that God is equally kind to all, is it so? Which should be equal to us. Are not all of us her children? Remember, as an He is, and her God is both masculine and feminine. Then why should Ishvara shower grace upon one and not upon another? Is Ishvara partial? Is He democratic or is Republican? No, God is not partial. God showers His grace equally upon us. That's exactly what God is doing. And as yet, individuals' effort must be there as well. The sun brightens this entire world, but the room may remain dark if the doors and windows are shut tight and drapes are drawn. We must open those windows and curtains to let that sunlight come in, and the room will certainly brighten as well. Warmth of the fire is always there, but you cannot sit in a corner, but one has to approach that fire to maintain that warmth. Similarly, we need to open up our gates of our heart to experience that grace of God. Prayers open the door of our heart. We'll indeed experience the divine grace much more intensely and regularly if we just let go of ahankara, ego, which is akin to the closed curtains preventing the sunshine, simply the divine grace. Finally, you might ask, if Ishvara is omniscient and knows everything, what is the need for anyone to ask for anything in the first place? Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed, both masculine and feminine forms. Is omniscient and knows everything, and yet effort is required on our part. It is precisely for this reason that God has endowed upon us a free will and graced us with threefold power in the form of knowledge, desire, and action. Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. We have the wisdom to understand or desire and act. Other beings, such as animals, are already provided for basic needs, such as food to survive and instincts to preserve the species. They probably do not need prey for basic needs. We as human beings indeed need personal efforts, including prayers to fulfill our goals, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. That is to live righteously, creating a protective shield of loving family and this friend circle, which exudes good values, enjoying all the pleasures of life within the societal norms, and most importantly, reaching the ultimate goal of human existence, ultimate goal of human existence by regaining the knowledge of our true identity so as to be liberated from the constant desire of more wants. Such grace easily descends upon us, especially during the most trying times or while in crisis, if an individual has been regular in daily prayers, as I mentioned. And this grace appears in the form of some unexpected situation or rare opportunity of an individual known or unknown appears unexpectedly and carries one through that crisis and leads him on the way of path of success. Only egotistic individuals think that all that success that comes their way is simply because their smarts and resourcefulness and their hard work. In conclusion for today, I can assure you that every one of us will certainly accomplish our goal of regaining our knowledge of our true identity if you have not already accomplished that goal, like Prasanna. But just in case you do not succeed, for whatever reason in his life, Lord Sri Krishna has expressed some encouraging word to Arjuna in chapter 6 in the 43rd verse, that we can continue our spiritual growth by starting from the very stage of our knowledge in our next life as human beings. She could have said, 43rd verse, Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvodekam yatate cha sayo bhuya samsiddhau kurunandana. Shri Krishna says, encouraging words to Arjuna by saying that individual gains a connection to the intellect with that existed in his previous body and strives for further success in yoga, and then gained previously, hey Arjuna, you are a joy of Kuru family. This promise to Arjuna, I know, is also a promise to each one of us who desirous of regaining the memory of our true identity by continuing our studies and spiritual practices in the dedicated way. Once that objective of Atmanyana is reached, you can indeed stay in that perpetual state of limitless happiness and contentment, despite all the challenges and painful experiences. As Shri Krishna says in the second chapter, Atmanye Vatmana Tushta. Atmani Eva Atmana Tushta. Hari Om Tat Sat. Guru Bhyam Namah. I'm going to stop here and open for question and answer.
Very nice summary. You have taught us before that the teacher can take you only up to Moksha Dwara, and to cross the threshold is your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you have also taught us that if you practice Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha, Samadhana, these are the 6 qualities you must pursue if you want the Atman to be your friend. And I look at it the following way. If I want to go from here to Duluth, I turn on the GPS, which tells me what path to take to go to Duluth. Turn on the GPS. And what you are saying is, if you want to reach the end point of your spiritual journey, you have to turn on the internal GPS, which is Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha, Samadhana, and you should turn off the internal GPS, which is G for greed, P for possessiveness, S for selfishness. So if you are able to do that, then you can achieve what verse number 5 in chapter 6 says, Uddharet Atmanatmanam.
Exactly.
And that was one of Kumu's favorite verses.
Exactly.
Yeah, always used to talk about, always used to talk about it.
Yeah.
So self-effort is very important. There's another saying in English which says, God helps those who help themselves. So you cannot sit in the corner and say, help me. But he says, what have you done for yourself? Have you taken the first step? Then I'll hold your hand and carry you through.
Exactly.
So very often in many situations, the answer is in our own hands, but we don't recognize it. It's like, remember the story I told you? I was wondering why people are always so admiring you for your knowledge, for your discourse, etc. Yeah, maybe I want to test him, whether he's really that good or is it some people's imagination. So I went to see you with a little bird in my hand. And I asked you, Dr. Sane, you are very knowledgeable. Tell me if the bird is dead or alive. And I told myself, if Dr. Sane says the bird is dead, I'll simply open my palm, let the bird fly, so I can falsify him. Or if Dr. Sane says the bird is alive, I'll simply squeeze, take the life out of the bird and show him the bird is dead. So either way, I can't lose. So Dr. Sane, with his usual mischievous smile, looked at me and said, Prasanna, you know what? The answer is in your own hands. So that kind of puts your ego down. And that's the essential message you're saying, that we are so egotistical that we think we know all the answers. In many situations, we do. There's no question about that. There are many situations where we don't. Or even if we do, it is obscured from us because of our own built-in ego. So the message I take from here is that follow the teachings of the teacher, don't get discouraged, and try to discipline your mind so that it doesn't wander every which way. You will reach the goal. So that it is not a hopeless situation. It is a promising situation. Thank you.
Thank you. But you listen to Usha. You got the answers then. Johnny, you were saying something?
I was only thinking, but you must have heard my thoughts.
Oh, yeah, I've got that capacity. Radiologist can see through. I'm coming to you 99 in a moment. Yeah. Go ahead, Johnny.
I was thinking about animals.
That's what I thought.
So I have heard it said that a person who lives a bad life will be reborn not as a human, but as some lower kind of creature with less capabilities than a human. If you look at it that way, and if you say that choice governs our life, that implies the need to know what should be chosen, and we also need to perform only the actions that are right, those three prescriptions. But you are a worm. Do you really have those capabilities? And if you don't, then you're stuck. So if you are to rise from that kind of creature towards the human, then either you have to suppose that those creatures have those kinds of abilities, or there's something missing in my understanding of what the notion of karma really says.
I understand what he's saying is, but you see, in order to that borrowed stardust to bring back to the life that you want to lead, you'll have to go through many lifespans to reach that level. You're right. But again, I have no full understanding as to whether we evolve in that particular fashion or not. But one thing I've learned through the teachers I've been privileged to have is that typically once you have graduated from high school, you usually don't go back to elementary school. So that as we have evolved to this level of understanding, we don't go retrograde. So that's the way I look at it as far as rebirth, if that's the question you're implying. And so my attitude has always been to remain positive. We have from inorganic to organic, organic to merely life forms, from life forms to more evolved forms, those evolved forms to animals, human beings, and by discussions like this, learning for one another, finding out who the real individual you are, getting Atmanyan, and then the only time you come back only is a faculty in the, I call it cosmic school of spiritual enlightenment. That's what I call this world, wherein you come back only as a teacher, because periodically, Sambhavami yuge yuge, dharma samsthapanarthaya, sambhamaya. Whenever there's a need in this world to be redeeming of negativity and establishing the positivity for everybody's benefit, divinity comes as a faculty member. So that's the way I look at it. So as far as human beings are concerned, Johnny, you already passed your college. So you don't have to worry about going back again. So thank you. Appreciate it. Naina, you want to say something?
No, I've just been contemplating all the discussions, etc. And, you've spoken about these 6, and then you added the 7, God's grace, the effort that you need in this lifetime. Basically, these are the things that you ought to incorporate in your life as you live your life, your journey, etc. I mean, obviously, effort is needed, discipline is needed. You know, part of it is prayers, enthusiasm, knowledge, resources. I think I missed one though. You know, I have, and then ready to face adversity. That's also equally important. That life is not guaranteed to go in a specific way. But what did I miss in all of this? That I mentioned? Because I want to incorporate it all. I mean, I don't want to leave one or two behind because I didn't put it in my notes. So,
Well, I mean, usually I share the notes anyway. So,
okay.
but the thing is, the word that if you remember, the only thing, I don't remember all the things, but if I just remember the mantra, they all the answers. So listen to that now. Udyamam sahasam dhairyam buddhi shakti parakrama shadete yatra vartante tatra devaha sahayakrit. So I mentioned that. Hard work, sahas, dhairya, that means, what are those? Effort, enthusiasm, perseverance, knowledge, resources, and readiness to face obstacles. But even then, you need the most important factor, divine grace. But this, when you show that you pass all the other exams, the exam will come for oral interview and give you that grace. And that grace also comes from the people that you know and you don't know. I mean, how many times you have come to a situation where a totally unknown person comes to help you? I can assure you in my life, there are so many coincidences. I can't help but believe has to be God, because who is going to help me in a totally alien situation where I had nobody else to help? I may have told you the story. Otherwise, here goes one more story. I tell stories. Kumud, myself, and two youngsters were driving on Highway 90 on New York Upper Thruway. We had a big New Yorker car, old car. I'm talking about 1971 or something like that. And at that time, no seat belts. I always put the pillows and blankets, and they're all wrapped up. And we were driving at a speed limit of 70, that's the limit. And it just so happened that the left front wheel of mine blew off on the driver's side. I knew I was losing control. I told Kubo, they said, we have a major problem. I'm trying to pull the car on the side. Take care of the children. They're nice, but be careful. I'm concentrating to pull the car quietly on the right-hand side. Through the rear view window mirror, I see an 18-wheeler is coming at full speed right behind me. I had no other choice but to try my best. What else? I managed to pull on the side with that car turning over. The 18-wheeler pulled right behind me and parked on the side. I was shaken up. I got everybody out of the car, realized what had happened. By that time, the driver from the truck got out. He said, "You have never changed a tire, have you?" I said, "No, I never changed it. Believe me, I have not changed them yet. AAA takes care of it if I need it." And he said, "Open the trunk." So I opened the trunk. At that time, the tires were always there. So he changed the tire, put the old one in the trunk. I put the kids in the car and got out in the car to thank him and take the number and telephone number of that company that he was driving for. But there was no truck. The truck had disappeared. That man was not there. My car was ready to go. Now, what do you call that? Okay. Now, I was trying to do it basically. I was appreciating what he did. And I wanted to make sure that I thank him personally and write specially to the company to that effect. And of course, I had dollars in my pocket too. But the point was, what really wanted to express through the body language and the words, but was not there. We did prayers and drove on. So how do you explain that? But the thing is, if you do your best, the help comes from totally unknown quarters. So that's how it happens. But you have to work your tail off, you know. You don't have any choice. Today's Karwa Chauth, and then you're supposed to pray for your spouse. And
Right.
they have to do that for you too.
Mhm.
Again, India, basically, women do that for men. That's nonsense. You do for one another. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I have one question,
Yeah,
Meena.
Hey, Meenal, bol.
So, you say God is everywhere. I mean, of course, I believe that. But then how do you explain all the cruelty and all the, like bad things that happen in the world, right? So you question, where is God over there? Like poor children, strife, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Like so
I
many.
understand. But at the
Yeah.
same time, Meenal, everybody goes through the various levels of refinement. I mean, all of us did not reach this human life overnight. All of us went through the sufferings in different forms. As a matter of fact, even the wise, educated people have the negative qualities too. Look at the Ravan. He was an immense, strong devotee of Lord Shiva. He had all the strength and power and wisdom and everything was there, but had a negative tendencies too. So we go through the process of gradual refinement. When you go to the mines in Africa, I had a privilege to spend a few months there. When you take out the diamond from the deep mine, it does not show up the brightness that you have on your fingers now, Meenal. It went through various processes of cleaning, sharpening, cutting, getting improved. So you see the negativity as it is till the time the final finished product comes. And we come up to almost the last stage, but still have to go through one more to find out your divinity within. So I don't know if I'm explaining to you or not. Both the positivity and negativity, as we see as Sanatana Dharma, exists in the universe. So that also is a part of divinity. I hope I answered enough to confuse you. Okay.
Okay. No. Okay. At some level, I get it, and at some level, I don't. So,
Good. I'm glad. Some level is better than nothing. Ajibat nothing.
yeah.
I have
Any
a
other
question.
questions?
Gatasuna Gatasunshya, if I understand right, says past is past in a sense. We don't know the future. So, in a sense, live in the present. Now, if you look at history, history is nothing but teaching of the past. And there is a saying in English that if people who don't learn from history are condemned to relive it. So, how do you reconcile these two things?
Remember, don't worry about anybody else. Look for yourself. So make sure that you reach that level of understanding. So as a matter of fact, there are three kinds of individuals. There are three kinds of people who, one group of people don't learn despite they are making mistakes. Other people learn by their own mistake. And wise people are the one who learn from somebody else's mistake. So what I'm trying to say is that your responsibility as a bright human being as you are, learn what is there in the history, learn from those oversights or mistakes that are committed, and don't repeat them. So that's the reason why you need to read the previous histories, learn from the great teachers of the times, and Sri Krishna is perhaps the best teacher that I have come across. Okay? So don't worry about anybody else. Only thing that you need to improve is yourself. Go and look in the mirror. See how you can improve yourself. Don't try to save the world. Start with yourself. When you get on the flight, I'm going down in 2-3 days to Phoenix. The steward is going to come and tell me, put on your mask first before trying to help anybody else. So make sure you learn yourself first and don't worry about anybody else. So I hope I answered your question the way you asked. Okay. So don't worry about
Thank
it
you so
else.
much. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
Dr. Sane, I think when we use the word God,
Uh-huh.
it's meant different to people following different religions.
Right.
So for a Christian, it may be Jehovah.
Uh-huh.
Right? For Muslim, it's Allah. They have different attributes to them. That's what means different, right? So when we say God is everywhere, no, it's probably not, because then people start asking which God, right? So it's Brahma Tattva or Brahman. That's what we say is everywhere, right? In Sanskrit. And after that, different gods, I mean, they are not everywhere, right? So
Well, basically, we call them as different names. God is only one. I mean, I frequently, when I take the tools on this temple, I say, people always get confused. There are so many temples, so many deities here. So, give an example of myself. I'm a doctor, my father, a son, a teacher, a mentor. But whatever relationship they establish with me, they address me with that Dr. Sane or the teacher or a priest. I've done the work as a priest, I've done a student. You understand? So relationship is established. So, but I only talk about what I understand. I don't know any other faiths. But as far as I'm concerned, there are good people in all faith traditions, and I respect them. So I'm not trying to teach the world. I'm trying to teach yourself. And as long as Atmanyam Atmanatushta, I don't need to worry about it. So leave them alone.
okay, thanks.
Dr. Sane, this is Gita. Thank you for this wonderful discourse again. And I wanted to thank you. I had the same question as, oh, no, I've got a mental block, but about, what happens? Do you go backwards if you make mistakes in your karmic life? Do you go from human is the highest form? And so do you go back to animal if you do really bad acts? And I always was struggling with that. And today you answered that question. And of course, it always motivated me to try and lead a good life, right? So that I don't go backwards. But this gives me a little bit more peace of mind that hopefully I'm not going to go back to where, I started. So thank you again for clarifying that.
No problem.
And John, thank you for asking that question because it has always and I don't know why I never asked you before, but thank you again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions or?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Sani. It takes me a while to get everything unmuted.
It's all right. It's okay.
Yeah. You answered my question. Actually, Arun did with his question or comment, thinking about it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Question in the chat.
What is that?
She's asking, according to Indian tradition and Hinduism, are children typically liberated, or is this reserved to adults, those over age of 25-year-old? I suspect that children are not typically ready for such an undertaking. In Indian tradition, I think we have 4 stages of life. First stage is until 25 years, where they get all the education. They're supposed to do or be expert in whatever trade they have. I mean, if you're a warrior, you have to be expert in all the war thing. And if you're you're interested in theology and everything, then they become expert in that. Or study for 25 years. Then grahast is, next 25 years is your family life. And then you kind of get away from it for another 25 years. And sannyasa, you are totally devoted to being liberated and all that. But it doesn't mean that you can't get liberated before that, right? I mean, if you are living your life, but I think the question may be about what if someone dies before 25 years, right? So will he be getting moksha or not? So Dr. Sane, what do you?
Well, one thing, I think if we're talking about hypothetical,
Yes.
that's not education. I'm just so selfish guy. I just look for myself. I would just deal with my own life to make sure how I can get that ultimate happiness. So don't worry about anybody else. If I'm a doctor and my young patient is taking care of it, then my approach is totally different. But as far as talking in generality, that's a waste of energy. So I don't want to even answer that question. The question is, you have a chance to address yourself. Take care of yourself first before anything else. But as you rightly said, Arun, you can achieve that understanding as a young man. Simple example is Dhruva. He was able to get it at that particular time. He was asked to sit there, sitting, just making sure that he achieves his ultimate goal. So it doesn't matter what. Vamana was very small. It doesn't have to be in the history. You'll find that basically very young people having achieved the ultimate success as well. So
Shankaracharya, he was 30 when he died. And
exactly, 31, 32.
We
Exactly.
study his books now. He's definitely liberated.
Yeah, everyone, many of these, Vivekananda died at the age of 39. So the thing is, age does not define, because sometimes when I used to run the camp for the last 43 years, soon was, how old are you, Dr. Sane? And I will tell him about 16 billion years old. I'm just, what I mean, just teasing wise, because I've been there from the beginning of time and living from this to that as a borrowed stardust, that's Johnny was talking last time. So it's just a question of being perpetually for a long time.